this is India's decade. What happened? 40, 50 years ago, we sold out to mediocrity. And this year, we built something called New Age India, where we are, as a bunch of young people, we are trying to create a narrative for the country which we want to see. What is our India? In my sessions, we had 4 billionaires, 2 heads of state, at least 3 Nobel Prize winners.
Oh my God.
And the only thing we kept talking about was India's growth story.
Do you think AI is a boon?
It's going to happen. This is just the beginning. We haven't even seen 1% of what AI can do. This is going to keep getting better and better and better.
From here, do you think AI is taking over labors?
I think the mode of work is going to change. It must change.
I won't say you much about this person, but this person's bio says, unending, unadulterated energy. Let's just get started. Meghdut.
Yes.
Yes. How's the Josh?
I do not know the context of this, but I'm guessing good. Josh Talks? Is this a Josh Talks episode?
No.
This
It's
NMM,
NMN pod.
NMN podcast?
It is. So let's make Kolkata relevant.
Let's make Calcutta relevant again. Yes, I have to stop you there because for me it'll always be Calcutta. Kolkata is very recent, but Calcutta is eternal. Calcutta is timeless. So let's not try and make the city what it's not.
Okay, so let me flip it.
Yes.
Let's make Calcutta relevant again.
Perfect.
So that's a campaign that you have started.
True.
Would love to know more about it.
It's been a while. I think, I grew up in this city and I believe that today a large part of who I am as a person has been shaped by the city. And hence, and also I have a massive syndrome where I want to save everything. I have a Saviour Complex, right? So growing up in a city with dwindling, let's say, prominence in a national and international landscape, I figured that if I could not create opportunities for young people to be themselves and to do things that they truly want to do, and then in the process lift this city up, I would not be doing justice to it. And then my Saviour Complex caught on and I built this campaign. And we run a bunch of initiatives to change the narrative around the city, make it more positive, bring more young people back, bring more entrepreneurial energy back. You know, if you look back at the history of the city, this is the place where so much of the first industrialization in the country happened.
Absolutely.
What happened? 40, 50 years ago, we sold out to mediocrity. And, here we are where Calcutta is not even, in spite of its massive population, it's not considered as one of the cool places to be.
We don't even call it as Calcutta. We call it Kolkata.
We call it Kolkata. I mean, it's just not
modern.
Is it more modern?
I don't know.
Is it more modern?
It does not have that essence.
It doesn't have that essence.
Right.
And, some people can say, oh, you're steeped in colonial hangover. Stereotype.
Right.
But, this is not my city. I choose to call my city as the city that I grew up in. For me, it'll always be Calcutta. Let's talk about relevance. What does relevance mean for you?
Relevance for me is trying to hold up. I feel like it's more of holding up to what you are. Individuality, maintaining that, not forgetting it, be it whatsoever, maintaining the whole set of mindset that you had in the very initial time and to continue with it.
Good.
Probably, yeah.
Good. So you're now my guest. This is my podcast now. I've taken
no.
over.
You don't get to take my show away from me. This is my show.
Okay, fine. You can get this one. We'll come back on another episode. Maybe I'll host you on one of our episodes.
That time, you can question me.
That now. I can question you. But let's keep some questions for me. I will die if I don't get to question things. I truly, truly believe that you can only grow when you question things that happen around you.
Absolutely.
Why do people do podcasts? There's a lot of memes that go on around the middle-aged man's need to open a podcast because of the way that they want to see the world. Right? But it's actually the human nature which provokes us. The human nature that we have to question everything around us.
It's the curiosity that we have in our head and it needs to come out because your question might be someone else's question as well.
Exactly. Right. And that opens up a world of opportunities.
Right.
I have a little curious dinosaur in my hand. Right?
Oh, yeah.
This is my reminder every single day.
And it says roar.
It says roar. Roar. It's a questioning dinosaur. It questions everything. It's like me. I'm questioning everything all the time. So I'm glad that today you are questioning me and hopefully you'll make some really tough questions as well. And so
they have prepared for you a lot.
Ooh, spicy. Let's go.
Okay, so let's talk about the Indian economic growth.
Okay. Wow. Getting straight to the. I thought this was going to be a fun podcast.
Yeah, we'll come.
Nobody gave me the memo.
We'll come to the fun part, but let's just talk about Indian economic growth, because you have taken a challenge to maintain the sustainability, to maintain the name Calcutta, and to take it forward. So how can you relate it with the economic growth?
It's a very interesting question. Actually, when you talk about the country as a whole, I think it's hard to just talk about individual narratives from a particular state. So we can't only talk about Bengal or Calcutta when you talk about holistic growth of a country. I have a better way of looking at this question. So I also, apart from running my initiative, which is Make Calcutta Relevant Again, I also curate the official India Pavilion at the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland. That happens, which brings together the world's greatest leaders every single year.
Wow.
It in minus 15 degrees where there's snow everywhere. And this year we built something called New Age India, where we are, as a bunch of young people, we are trying to create a narrative for the country which we want to see. What is our India? And this is a place where, for the first time, I feel, we saw the energy of the youth in Davos, where, world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, economists, CEOs of the biggest countries in the world are present. And I curated 5 sessions. And we spoke to, I think in my sessions, we had 4 billionaires, 2 heads of state, at least 3 Nobel Prize winners.
Oh my God.
And the only thing we kept talking about was India's growth story. This is India's decade. We cannot deny that. We are going through a time where no matter where you are, wherever I go in the world today, everyone wants to do business with me without even looking at my LinkedIn profile, purely because I'm Indian. The growth story of a country with 1.5 billion people, a rising economy, it's a place of opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
And with, let's say, China taking a step back, with geopolitics playing a very tricky part in Europe right now with whatever's happening between Russia and Ukraine, the Middle Eastern crisis, India's time to shine is now. And I see that more and more. People are recognizing it. Indian startups are doing really well the world over. And everyone wants a piece of that. So I am extremely optimistic about where we are headed to as a country, as an Indian citizen, as somebody who represents the youth of the country on global platforms. I have never had a better time. So I'm just having a ball. And we'll see where India's growth goes, but it's going to be because of the youth of our country. It's because of the new age people in our country.
So as we're talking about global, right? And you represent India, you take India with you everywhere you go. So how do you feel like we are different?
How are we different?
How are we different?
We are inherent. So there's 2 things I think that set Indians apart. I mean, apart from our skin color, of course, that's easy to spot, right? But and also that I don't blush because I'm kind of brown, right? Otherwise, if you're hanging out with a lot of white people, they blush a lot,
right? They do.
So, but we don't, which is unique. But other than that, I think there's 2 things that I believe sets Indians apart from everyone else in the world. One is our inherent optimism. And that's because we as a country have been through a lot. We as a country have had so many different powers rule us over time that we could have lost what is inherently ours. We could have lost our culture, our heritage. We have been plundered. We have been taken over. Other people have ruled us and tried to change our narrative, and we have held on to it, which makes us inherently resilient. We are very optimistic. We care about what's happening in the future tomorrow. We look forward to that. That's one thing I think that is very important for the India story. The second thing I think that sets Indians apart is our frugality, what we call Jugaad. Jugaad kori amra. In Bangla we say that.
Right.
Of course, the Bengali in me comes out whenever I say that, but I've been told to not speak in Bangla too much on this. But, Jugaad, I don't know if a lot of people who are watching this know it, but back in the day, the word Jugaad, do you know where the term Jugaad comes from?
No.
Jugaad is actually the name of a vehicle.
Okay.
So in Rajasthan, back in the day, there used to be a vehicle created out of a plank of wood and 4 wheels. And people, when they would reach a particular stations, train stations, and want to go back to their villages, they would get on one of these vehicles, and the Jugaad, which was the vehicle, would take them there. This was not a car that was manufactured. It was not a Tata car, or it was not a car that was made by anybody else. This was a Jugaad. From there came the concept of frugal innovation, which is how do you make the most with the least?
With the least, right?
With the least amount of resources, with the least amount of, privilege, wealth. And that's what makes Indians.
And that's what Indians ace at.
This is what we are good at. We make the best of our situations, where no matter the adversity in front of us, this is what sets us apart.
Right.
So that's my analysis of your two questions: optimism and jugaad or frugality. This is what I think is poising us for India's decade of growth.
So for startups, there's a lot of issues that we come across for startups. And as you are very internally linked with startups and you have a very sharp ideology about it, today's youngsters, even though they want to start startups, they think of it, plan it, but they again go behind. What are the things that stops them, and why does it even come up?
I'm going to flip that. I don't actually believe in your question. I don't think this question is relevant in today's day and age. And it's not against you. I mean that for a country in a post-Shark Tank world, on TV, where instead of talking about Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi or Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, I don't know, like talking about whatever, popular fiction. I don't mean to demean any of these things. But for the first time, perhaps across dinner tables with your uncles and aunts, your grandparents, you are discussing funding rounds. You are discussing investment. You're discussing sharks. You're discussing economic growth. And that's happening in today's day and age. Actually, today, if you look at the Indian ecosystem, I think more young people are excited about being startup entrepreneurs.
I'm sorry to cut you out here.
Yeah.
Do you think these young people, they have ideas, they know what to do, but they are not given that platform by the uncles or the people they're sitting with?
Great point. Maybe sometimes not, because India as a country, after being ruled by the Brits, let's forget all the other people we've been ruled by, but the most recent was the British, and that was 200 years, which is a significant time in history.
Right.
One of the things that the British really focused on doing in India was making sure that we follow a pattern, that we follow rules, right? The idea was so that if the more we follow, the more they could rule, the more easily they could rule, which made great out of us. I mean, is a bit of a heavy word, but
very heavy.
A bit heavy, sorry. But maybe better followers out of us.
Followers
right?
out
so which does not make us good entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs take risk. Entrepreneurs don't believe rules exist, which is what makes them successful. So I believe in today's day and age, yes, the older generations, because they grew up in a post-colonial world where, our uncles, aunts, the older generation, they think it's because they've been influenced by an India which had just been left by the British. Right. And after 200 years of British rule, where you are basically being taught to follow, it gets hard to lead.
It is.
So, of course, it is not easy it was not easy for those people to think about growth the same way. But I see, the more I interact with young people, I love young people. I spend so much of my time with 20-year-olds now, and even younger, like 19, like 18-year-olds. I see a different spark in them. They don't believe that rules exist. They also are inherently a lot more confident because they have access to technology. They have access to information, which a lot of the older generations did not. And they believe that they can build global businesses sitting in their tiny little rooms. It's what was happening in Silicon Valley 30 years ago is what's happening in tiny little villages of Murshidabad to Rajkot. Right. Everywhere across the country, you're from the east to the west, north to south, we are seeing a spurt of entrepreneurial energy. And that's fueled by, let's say, shows which bring, entrepreneurship to the forefront.
Shark Tank.
Like Shark Tank. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, or Dragon's Den, for example. That's the show that I really love watching. It's a British show, which I find it fascinating.
I feel like Shark Tank is inspired from it, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
I think it might have actually been. You might actually be right on that. But to be seen, maybe if there's a fact checker on it, we'll see. But that's interesting. You studied business.
I did. Okay, one thing I really have to question you about is AI.
You have to question me about AI, but I have to question you about...
No, I am questioning...
Now it's a fight? Are we going to have a fight about this? You studied business. Such an interesting story. We were chatting before. You said you studied business and then you went into acting and modeling.
Right.
Wait, tell me about that experience.
It was totally an unplanned journey. I'm just going with the flow.
Yes,
trust
me.
Like
we are doing on this episode.
We are just going with the flow. So it was unplanned, and this is the whole acting thing. Never thought of it.
Accidental actor?
Accidental actor, but yeah.
Accidental podcast host today.
Absolutely.
Okay, you can ask me the question
The
about AI then.
right.
What did you want to ask?
So, do you think AI is a boon, or it's a, it has brought in changes that change your life?
We are so much at the starting point of what AI is capable of.
And we are already scared of it. A lot of people are.
A lot of people are, but I think, okay, I'll give you an interesting example on this. So a few weeks ago, I was sitting with my dad. We have these very intense conversations. A lot of my entrepreneurial energy comes from my dad. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family, and I was sitting with him, chatting with him. He's 60, late 60s, early 70s, right? And every time I meet him, he's got a very curious mind. He's like, what are you working on? What new things are you doing? Show me some things that you're doing. So I downloaded OpenAI on his phone. I downloaded ChatGPT on his phone.
Right.
And he's one of those super inspirational people. He's rebuilt the way that education functions in West Bengal, for example. Taught more than 1 million people have gone through his group of educational institutions, and because he's very curious, and sometimes he talks about ideas which are very hard for normal people to grasp. I made him download ChatGPT and I showed him how it functions. And since then, he's completely made my life miserable because he doesn't let me sleep anymore. He talks to ChatGPT all the time, and he's got so many ideas about the way that the world functions and should function. And he's built, I kid you not, in the last 11 days, he's built 20 new business ideas.
What?
20. I'm not even kidding.
Crazy.
20. Yes. And that's my father, who's a 70-year-old somebody.
Like an epitome of knowledge speaking to another epitome of knowledge, creating
stuff all the time. So my point is, if my 70-year-old father, yes, given he is very well educated, super smart, whatever, but if my 70-year-old father, who could have taken an adverse look at technology and been like, what, I don't know, I'm scared of it. First things first, let's not get scared of it. It's an inevitability.
Absolutely.
AI is going to be part of your life, whether you like it or not.
It has to be.
Might as well harness it and use it for the better, right? Today, I mean, as of like a few days ago, you have the ability to create text to video. Forget text to speech, text to photos.
You can make to video, actually.
Photorealistic with like motion blur.
Yeah, people who are dead, suddenly they are moving.
What is going on? It's going to happen. This is just the beginning. We haven't even seen 1% of what AI can do. This is going to keep getting better and better and better. We either decide to let it come and disrupt our lives and get super scared of it, or get better at it. Just learn. It's not even that difficult. Once you move past that initial stage of like, oh shit, I'm super scared, to like, wow, this is interesting, have a conversation with it. I don't need a secretary anymore. I don't need 100, I used to before. I don't really hire that many people anymore anyway, but I used to say a lot of people, especially in modern economies, you see them, they are involved in activities, but they don't contribute as much. They're just like sitting and chilling, whatever. For let's say people who've been involved in disguised unemployment.
Right.
Like, you're sitting at home, but you do not really,
There's no input.
There is no input. I would rather just have an AI with me. I would rather, it's the best assistant in the world.
From here, do you think AI is taking over labors?
I think the mode of work is going to change. It must change. There is a lot of disguised unemployment in our world. I think the lowest class of labor see, this also happened 80 years ago, 100 years ago with industrialization. Back then, people also said, people first said, horses are taking away the jobs of people. Then machines are taking away the jobs of people. Then computers are taking away the jobs of people. Now AI is taking away the jobs of people. It will always keep happening.
Evolving.
It is evolution. Evolve, right? I mean, live with it. What did all of humanity disappear just because a machine suddenly had the ability to make your grains from husk? No. People continued. Human beings continued. So the natures of job are going to change, but that does not necessarily mean that AI is going to take over the world and we should be scared of it. So
we should learn from it.
Learn from it. Use
Grow
it.
From it.
Get better with
it.
It's the best possible teacher. I have learned more from AI than perhaps all the teachers in my world put together. Sorry, teachers, if any of you are watching, love you very much. And I love you for all the things you've taught me about life, but about things that I actually need to know today, relevant, what happened, what's happening. How do I distill information from there? How do I analyze it and use it to my own knowledge? I'm a sponge.
Right.
I'm constantly taking energies, knowledge, information, processing it in real time, and I'm
trying to
working
do
on it.
better with
Exactly.
it, right?
I'm not saying everyone needs to be like that, but or everyone can be like that, or everyone
Has to
is
be like that, right?
But there are things in AI for everybody. Generative AI is changing the very nature of the very social fabric with which we are, and might as well get used to it,
Like, how do you see AI with economic development in future?
It's already being used very much for economic development, and it's not recent. So, what is AI? Let's kind of try and break that down. You are taking patterns of what happens in the world, you like analyzing it in real time, and then using it to give you new information about things you want to do.
Right.
This is what basically humans are also supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right? Except now there's a bunch of computers.
Now they're too scared. You know why? Because the work that they had to do,
now it's being done.
It's been done.
Yeah.
And in a very better way.
Exactly.
They're actually putting it in use.
And all the biggest companies in the world, the biggest banks in the world, everyone already uses AI to an extent that it's beyond the understanding of you and me.
Right.
So it is already being used to shape the world. It is being used to, affect politics. It is being used to affect funding in companies. It is being used to affect the way that betting happens in sports. It is being used to affect education. It is being used to affect film, theater, cinema, even music. I mean,
Right.
I'm a massive music buff, and I've produced, I think 3,000 albums at this point.
Is it?
Yes, in this very studio where we're sitting now.
Oh my God.
We've worked with independent artists and built what is the underground scene of the city of Calcutta out of here. And we've used technology many times. I mean, even when people were scared during COVID to use technology, what would happen, what not. When people...
You took the risk.
We took the risk. When people wanted to, could not go to the US to perform during Durga Puja, we created a studio which was complete. We created a 4-camera setup with live audio, which was live streaming these shows so that the artists would not die. The artists would not die of hunger. We did 400 shows during COVID in this very studio, so that we still managed to keep life afloat the way even before COVID was happening. Think of if you are so scared of COVID, and then we made our way out of it. Life has not changed.
Life has not changed.
Think of AI the same way. If you're so scared of it, there will be a post-AI world as well. You'll have to just walk with it.
You have to just walk with it.
That's it.
So NGOs and you.
Okay.
You're linked to quite a few. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
NGOs compete for donor attention and funding. What's your view on it? And how is your one different from it?
My ones, I mean, with my wife, I work with almost 350
Your
NGOs.
ones, let me say.
My ones. I bring in soul to it. See, I bring in soul to everything I do. This is who I am.
Like you
as a
just
person.
brought in soul to the studio.
I hope so.
Yes, you did.
I don't know if we kept the challenge alive.
Yes, you did. Like I am speaking a lot.
Good. That's why we are having a conversation. It's
Absolutely.
bilateral trade happening as we speak.
Yeah.
No, so even with NGOs, one thing that I do not necessarily prescribe to is passive donations. I mean, it might be useful in some ways where you think, okay, I have extra money, I'm going to give it to something, and that's great. But I'll give you a better example. Last week, we raised 1.2 crores for an NGO in Calcutta for its kids called Ektara. Yes.
Wow.
And I work very closely, and people might not know this. It's the only NGO in the country which is funded by the Tomorrowland Music Festival.
Beautiful.
And it's in
I would love to know more about it.
Come see it.
I would love to be a part of it.
I will take all the people who are watching this. And
I would love to
do you
be a part
realize
of it.
what I just did? I plugged Ektara onto the show. And I spoke about something that I passionately believe in.
Trust
me.
And
I raised money for it.
Right.
So I brought in soul to that as well.
Right.
The week after that, I don't, because I said I believe in actually giving by doing. I like spending time at these NGOs and doing things by hand. I've started a campaign where I feed young people by my hand. I actually cook and I feed them. Now, actually, kids don't particularly care. Let me tell you something. Kids don't particularly care about the food at all. It's probably not because I'm not a very good chef, but it's probably because they care a lot more about the time that we spend together. NGOs should not be looking for donations, or should not be fighting for donations. They should be looking for attention from the right kind of donors. It's people who should be invested not just with their money, but with their time and efforts.
And the purpose too.
and the purpose. It's very important, ties it into their lives.
Absolutely.
There's a particular term for it. And this is the only kind of philanthropy I do. It's meaningful, purposeful, engaged philanthropy. That term is so, it's not, I don't do charity. I only do engaged philanthropy. And I believe that, normal cases, charity can be considered as a playground of rich people, that, okay, I have money, so I'll do that. And plus it's not taxed, right? You get, if you have a ATG, you get your tax back. That's why a lot of people would give that. Good and great, helps companies.
So you need to do your homework and know the purpose behind.
Otherwise, why are you even giving?
Absolutely.
I mean, do you not study the ratings on Zomato before you order your food?
I do.
Then why wouldn't you do that with your NGO?
Absolutely. So there are NGOs who brings up competition nowadays.
Then good for them. I mean, nothing wrong against them. They need their money. But I think rather than looking just for the funds, they should be looking for funders who would give them their time.
Do you think these people there are a different sector of people who are more inclined on how much money they are getting by funding, collecting, and they're more inclined on this more than what they will be doing with that money?
So
I bet you have met such people.
I have met many people, and I don't necessarily work with them by choice. I think, like anything else in the world, purpose and passion go hand in hand, right?
Absolutely.
Like for any project it is, whether it's a startup or an NGO or a social business or a movie if you're doing, or an ad that you're doing, right? Just because it pays you money does not mean you need to do it.
You have to be passionate about it.
And does not mean you need to let go of your morals and your principles and your values and your
ideas.
Absolutely.
I love this point.
Right? So the same way I evaluate I only have 24 hours in a day. I can, with no matter how much more money I had, I would not be able to buy even an extra day, extra minute, extra from my day, right?
Absolutely.
So I have 24 hours. I can only do so many things. I want to do everything, which means I need to be better at choosing the things I do, which is how I choose my projects, be it NGOs, be it my passion projects, be it startups that I work with, or be it businesses that I build.
Startups like Zepto, Blinkit, Instamart, etc. What's your note about it?
Initially, when it came out, I was a bit skeptical, to be honest. I was like, why do we need 15-minute deliveries for anything? Then I realized that it's actually not a terrible idea.
Oh my God. I had my personal experience, and trust me, it's not
life-changing, right?
It is. I did not have charge on my phone, and I had 2% charge, and I did not have my charger as well.
Yeah.
So I had to blink it. I'm like, do I get a charger?
Yeah.
And you get a charger.
Services, it works. Just works. And I see it's very special that we have this in our country. Again, we talk about hyper growth because we are going through a phase of hyper growth in our country where everything's growing, right? Everything's like just building onto it. When my friends come to visit from outside of the country, and because I've lived and worked abroad for many years, and I've studied abroad, and it happens that a lot of my friends, I love hosting people, so a lot of my friends come and visit me in Calcutta. Or in India, wherever I'm hosting them. I was hosting 30 people in Goa a few weeks ago for somebody's birthday. There were people from 23 countries. And nobody believed that we have something like Blinkit here. They're like,
they don't have there?
No, in 15-minute deliveries are a thing that happens only in India, at least at this point.
Is it?
Yeah, and it's crazy.
Crazy.
Yes, and even the ease that we have with, say, a Zomato delivery or Instamart, for example. Instamart as something that brings you your groceries and your veggies, when the moment you need them. Oh, I've run out of milk, and I need milk. And, before.
Puja, flowers.
Everything. So I think it's great. I think one of the things I was skeptical was the health and the working conditions for the drivers, because I guess sometimes they have to really go beyond a certain speed and all that.
Right.
But very interesting things have happened since then. Innovation. When you have dangers, then innovation comes through. When you have crisis, innovation comes through.
Absolutely.
So one of the companies that I was working with way back in the day, Calcutta company, in fact, called Altor Helmets. They make helmets. They make smart helmets. They tied up with Zomato last week, and now they have smart helmets for every single rider in Zomato, which means that they not only are they not going to get hurt, but all their vitals, all their information is being tracked and monitored so that they have a better way of working conditions.
Technology,
it's amazing, right?
It's amazing.
Before they would have, deliveries for some of these companies having from much further away, but now they've built hyper local nodes, which means the delivery is only going to come from the closest mall or from the closest supermarket or from the closest convenience store, which means that using technology, you've been able to make the area which you're working in even smaller, which is incredible, because then the chances of you of the rider, having to hurry on a 15-minute route, which would have normally taken them 20 minutes, is much lowered. So using technology, the more time goes through, the lesser dangers there will be, and we accept it. It makes our life simpler.
What is the fastest delivery that you have got?
7 minutes something. It happens quite often. I get 7 to 8 minute deliveries quite often.
They always keep up to it, right?
They always keep up to it. And the best is they have this message like, it says initially when you order, like, it's going to take 12 minutes. And then, your
delivery partner reached before time.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, you know why they do that? Why they tell you that? So that they can tip you, so that you can tip them more.
But we try to overlook.
We should not.
We should not.
Because they are really, in some places, risking their lives to make sure.
Some places, even they are coming through bicycles.
Bicycles, bikes, whatever. So be nice to them. Offer them a glass of water. You can have some heart and soul there also. And if they come, 5 minutes late, 5 minutes early, it doesn't change your life massively.
So what we do, if they are 5 minutes late, we don't forget to barge on them.
Exactly. But if it's 5 minutes early, do you reward them? I would like people to be a bit more kind and a bit more loving, Your delivery partner just basically risked his life and you were like, what, I don't even acknowledge that. We can do better. I think we can do better.
Failure is a part of startups.
Failure is a part of everyone's life.
Failure is a part of everything, right?
Everything, yes.
What's your view on it?
This was circa 2012. I was in Europe studying, and I realized that I wanted to learn from people's failures. And we got together with a couple of friends. This was in Belgium, I think. Yeah. And we created this IP called Nights. Yes.
Nice.
Nights. Sorry, we are not on radio. I think F Up Nights.
F Up Nights, right.
Yeah. So what we ended up doing was we started inviting CEOs of major corporations, like well-known organizations, and you could not talk about your achievements. You could not talk about the medals you've gotten. You could not talk about all the good things you've done.
You cannot boast about yourself.
You can only talk about how you've effed up. You failed. You will not believe the kind of stories I learned, the kind of lessons I got. I realized I never wanted to hear about people's achievements anymore. Someday, I'm going to bring Fuck Up Nights back as a podcast. Maybe this is the takeaway from today. I think I need to bring it back. And I have personally learned more from people's failures. So what we should focus on is how do we take the lessons out of it?
Right.
There's not that many lessons in great things that have happened because human beings don't come with a script.
Absolutely.
Right? We don't come when we were born. It's not like there was
with a script.
There wasn't an instruction manual. We're not washing machines, right?
Absolutely.
We don't have to come with something. So just because something worked for somebody doesn't mean it will work for you.
Work for me,
but
right?
the things that didn't work for somebody
might work for you.
Exactly. And you definitely
have to learn from it.
You definitely know what not to do.
Absolutely.
Right? So this is I love talking about failures in general.
But we avoid it. Like a lot of people avoid it. I don't know why they do it. Because they are too scared.
Because they feel that society will see them differently. But I think in today's society, and I think I learned that the most from my sister who's 10 years younger than me, the way that she talks about vulnerability,
Absolutely.
The way she talks about her insecurities is something that I maybe never had when I was growing up. To that extent, I did because I come from a family which was always very supportive and very open and always open to discussion. But a lot of Indian families, I feel, do not do that.
They do. Yeah.
So they kind of stop you from talking about it. No. What would people think?
It was considered as a taboo.
Yeah. So it's like log kya kahenge.
Log kya kahenge.
Let's flip it. लोग क्या ही कहेंगे?
लोग क्या ही तो बोलेंगे? ऐसे ही क्या नहीं बोलते लोग?
Anyway, people are going to say whatever they have about you, especially
either in front of you
or behind you. So might as well let people continue on that, right? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? It's going to create some controversy.
Absolutely.
Woo-ha. Human beings have the memory spans of goldfish. In 3 days, it's going to go out of modern fiction.
In 7 days, they'll forget.
Even Shah Rukh Khan, with whatever went through in his life, came back and did a massive movie and was the most biggest selling actor. Shah Rukh Khan is Shah Rukh Khan.
Shah Rukh Khan is Shah Rukh Khan.
But you could have thought even Shah Rukh Khan must have had such a bad time with whatever happened with his son.
Absolutely.
And the way he was targeted, right? So nothing stays in human beings' brains for very long. Let's learn from the failures. Let's learn from people. Let's learn to open up.
At least when we talk about failures a lot, like a massive amount of these depression, anxiety, all these topics are covered. Yeah. At least we are coming up with it.
And I think it just makes you more relatable.
Right.
At the end of the day.
Positive.
Yeah, it's just, there's positivity in everything. I want to see it as positive. Everything is positive.
So, as we come to an end, there's one question.
How long has it been?
Absolutely not 20 minutes though. How to get into Meghdut mentorship program, it says. The script says.
The Meghdut mentorship program. I am hearing about this the first time. But
we can even do that a plan.
Let's make it a plan. I would love to. First of all, I mentor a lot of young kids, but there's a way. I guess I have an issue with the word mentorship itself, because again, it comes across as very unilateral. Just because I'm older or more experienced does not mean that I have to be the one mentoring. I think the world that we are coming to more and more
Both
today.
ways.
Yeah. So reverse mentorship is also something that I truly, enjoy. And I think I learn a lot from young people today. So currently the people that I'm mentoring include a 22-year-old acid techno DJ from Chandanagar.
Wow.
A 19-year-old kid who wants to become a chef. Couple of people who want to get into music, cinema, all of that. And about 300 startups. Startup founders. And that's something that has, with being in the East and sort of molding the entrepreneurship ecosystem here, I think it's just something that's happened naturally. It's not like I had a Meghdut mentorship program apply within this time to this time.
Quote unquote.
And I will reply within 300 to 300 business days. This was never the plan.
So you're more of a just go with the flow.
Yes. So my LinkedIn is fairly open. I try to reply to everyone, whoever writes to me. My Instagram is open. People seek out for help, whatever. It's not even a mentorship thing, but if I can add some value to your life, just reach out.
So that's how we enter the Meghdut mentorship program.
It's just my DMs. You can slide into my DMs, I guess. This is the Meghdut mentorship program. And, honestly, more than happy to contribute to your lives, especially if in some way it revolves around young people getting better at their lives, because I am already a veterinarian. No, not sorry. I use the complete veterinarian are doctors for animals.
Yes.
I meant veteran.
Yes.
I am sorry.
I was like,
wait, sorry. I am not a veterinarian at all, but I am a veteran. Veteran is a term we use in tennis. I've played tennis all my life. Veteran is a term that we use for like people above a certain age. So I am on the other side of my 30s. I am already old. I think, we need younger people in their early 20s to now be disrupting the status quo. And I'm more than happy to work with all of them.
And what I can feel is you don't want them to face any kind of hindrances that you have faced.
Yeah, actually all the hindrances that I haven't faced, let me put it in another way, because I've always been inherently optimistic about everything I do. I don't get bothered by hindrances. I look at every hindrance as like, that's
a challenge.
That's a learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
I learned something from it. If it didn't go the way I planned, actually even better, some good things are going to come out of it. And if there's one lesson I want people to, keep from this conversation is that, don't let anything bog you down. Like, worst case scenario, talk to somebody around you. We don't share as much. Talk to people who you would least expect to get help from, and the help is going to come from places that you least expect. Talk to the lady outside, who brings vegetables, or talk to your taxi wala, especially if you're in Calcutta. Taxi walas are the biggest treasure troves of all kinds of knowledge and information.
Absolutely.
If you have an issue, they're not going to judge you because they don't know you.
Because they don't know you.
And they will never see you again. Ask for help. Don't hesitate to ask for help. I've seen a world of difference between people who are not conscious asking for help, and that really builds an entire different, fabric within them. And, the rest of it, we're going to figure it out. Free flow, right?
As
we said.
So we had an absolutely amazing session with Meghdut. We got to know a lot of things. I got to brainstorm, and we have come to an end of this amazing podcast. So I know you guys loved it, and I loved hosting him because he is all total a box full of energy. So keep your eyes in the next episode. I know you guys are going to love it. Thank you. Lots of love.